I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, December the 5th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is a bold, straight shooting tulathromycin injection that does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and for your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, they just continue to keep having yearling specials when nobody else has any true yearlings. This will be the third week in a row they've had a big slug of yearlings, expecting about 75 load lots at least, straight loads of yearlings on close to 10,000 head of cattle on offer. They'll get started early like they always do. They'll be going by 6. Get on to dvauction.com, view and bid Joplin Regional Stockyards on another big yearling special. Be careful. I kind of feel hypocritical, being that the biggest part of my report, or the part that I think people like the best, is your top quotes at the end on feeder cattle that I give every time I do a feeder flash, and I love to give big prices. I love to see producers get big prices for their cattle, backgrounders get big prices for their cattle, especially cattle feeders get big prices for their cattle. I'm always on the cattleman's side, but I see some things that are worrying me out there now. There's some prices out here that I've heard of betting on the come and being hopeful and optimistic, but people are just committing suicide out here on some of what they're paying for these cattle, and it's dangerous. We've got our farmer feeders done with harvest now, so a lot of them are coming into the market in the northern plains and up in the Midwest. They like to feed the fancy calves, but they want them weaned, and they are starting to be more of them weaned now. So they're coming in buying these big weaned calves to feed, and the price levels on them are just unbelievable. And I keep thinking that they're going to back off of them a little bit, but every week it just seems like they just get a little bit wilder and a little bit wilder. Now down in the southern plains, where you don't see so much independent cattle feeding, and you don't see for sure any farmer feeders, you don't see those prices get out of hand like that. Of course, they got fancier cattle up there in the north, and then they got the bigger strings of the hard weaned calves coming right now, and they are going to draw a lot of eyes to you. But my goodness, these cattle don't have a chance in hell of washing, let alone making any money. I always talk with a lot of my friends, or text or communicate back and forth about what stuff's bringing and how cattle are feeding and things like that. These cattle are just, people's never seen cost of gains like this, especially a lot of the people that are feeding the younger people. They just can't fathom $1.50, $1.60 cost of gains. It's hard to back those cattle up, $30, $40, $60, $100. I'm talking about from the price you give as feeders is what you're going to get for them as fat cattle. It's hard to do. And I'm just really worried that people are hurting themselves. I mean, it could put some people out of business. But they see other people doing it. They think, well, hell, the guy on the other side of the ring, he was bidding on them too. But you guys need to sit down and put a pencil to this. And I know there's some people going to be saying, hey, what are you doing? Don't be saying that, because I'm going to be selling my calves and I want them to bring a whorehouse price. Of course you do. Everybody does, but I'm just saying, we're already starting to see some resistance to the fat cattle market. We have yet to hit 160 yet. We've yet to hit 158 as a mainstream number. It's mostly 157, and they're starting to see some resistance, and there's some things technically and otherwise, even fundamentally, as far as the numbers that we have market-ready cattle, that's telling us that we might see them resist this fat cattle market a little bit, or getting any higher, and we may kind of stay right in here or back off just a little bit. Well, for what a lot of people are paying for some of these cattle, and we got to keep our foot on the gas and just keep accelerating. But the highest cattle we've ever had in the history of the world were 172 live in Nebraska. We're sitting at the top we saw was 159 on a few, but your market's really 157, maybe some 158. And I don't know that we're going to be able to get there, and it's just getting a little bit concerning. But you guys use your own judgment and let your money be the last thing you part with. If you do want to try to get some cattle that are worth the money, of course you're going to have to keep them alive. You got to be a cowboy if you're going to get them. My buddy Ellison Carter down at Ellison Carter Cattle Company there west of Weatherford, Texas. I check in with him periodically on what you could order some cattle for and have them delivered. These are delivered prices to the Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma mostly, sometimes up in southwest Kansas, but these are delivered prices for some cattle. And he sent me his shippings for this last week on Sunday, and he said, I got a lot of fancy cattle bought this week. A lot of them would be fancier than typical. I mean, most of them be good enough to go anywhere, but he said some really, really nice cattle out there, and I'm going to give you a rundown. These are loads, the delivered prices to Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma, maybe up in southwest Kansas. Load weight 285 at 214.85, be fancy. 320 pounders at 208.15, fancy also. 375 pounders at 201.85. Load of 410 pound steers. These are all steers and some bulls on them. $200.10, and they'd be fancy. Load weight 490 at 183, they'd be fancy. Some just average quality cattle, 500 pound load at 180, 170. Bunch weight 510 at 174.50. A load of 565 pound all blacks, all steers, brought 162.35. A load of plainer cattle, bigger 600 pound steers on the plain side at 159.85. Let's look at the heifers. Load weight 385 at 183.15. Load weight 485 at 169. Load weight 495 at 162.80. Load of fancy heifers weight 535 at 163.85. Load of replacement heifers weight 555 at 170. Load weight 6 1/4 at 155, and a load of bigger heifers weight 680 at 152.15. But sure look like they make a lot more sense than some of the top quotes that I give late. Of course, it's a lot more fun to give those top quotes. Let's talk about your board for last week, your December live cattle futures. Monday was down 50, Tuesday was up a dime, Wednesday was up 40, Thursday down 2, and Friday up 30. None of those impressed you one way or the other. It doesn't really want to move anywhere. Maybe another reason that we're seeing, a little bit resistance here. And it's well under what your cash market is, and well under what our weighted average is going to be for your 5-area feeding region, with December live cattle futures ending the week at 153.35. That was up 28 cents for the week. That's it. February ended the week at 155.87. That was up 75 cents. Feeder cattle were up big after opening the week lower. January feeder cattle, Monday was down $1.42, but Tuesday up $1.12. Wednesday up $2.47. Thursday up 60, and Friday up 137. With January feeder cattle ending the week at 182.45, up $4.15 for the week. But if you can get some cattle bought, some 800 pound steers, and you'd want to buy a load of them, it'd be hard to get them bought for that. But that's what they're advertising for January, and we're getting close to that. They sure wouldn't work. No way. If you bought them for the index levels, which are in the high 170s, they still wouldn't work either with what these cost of gains are, guys. March feeder cattle ended the week at 185.27, up 372. Corn was down 33 cents for the week at 6.35 a bushel. Beans up 2 1/4 cents a bushel at 14.38.5 to end the week. Fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week, 47,800 head. Your live sales of fat steers and heifers were firm to $2 higher, from 155 to 159. But surprisingly, your weighted average on live steers was 156.08, only 1 penny per hundredweight higher, 0.01 cent higher. That's unbelievable. Yeah, you know, they just didn't get as many the higher priced cattle in there. Now dress sales gained, and we've kind of been seeing that the last several months, where you're in the northern plains, your live will gain a bunch of ground, then the next week the dressed, or vice versa, or maybe down, but going 1 week and then the next. But dress sales $2 to $3 higher, from 245 to 249, with dress steers averaging 248.70 in your 5-area feeding region, up $3.82 compared to the end of last week. On Friday, we had some trade. Hallelujah, Colorado printed. We had a little dab of competition in Colorado, and they actually printed some information out of there. And the information that we got could give you an idea why we don't get any information from there. On Friday, they sold 400 head. That was 1,100 head for the week, negotiated cash sales in Colorado. Those 400 head brought 157 on Friday. Iowa, 2,100 head on Friday, 13,800 head for the week. Be a little light for them, 157 to 158. Nebraska, 4,200 head on Friday, 20,600 head for the week. Be pretty good movement for them. 157 to 159 in dress sales, from 247 to 249 on Friday. Your weighted averages will be a little bit higher, so it won't be that pitiful 1 penny, but it's not going to be too many more pennies. Kansas, just 100 head on Friday, a little over 10,000 head for the week. 154 was the price, but we saw mostly 155 in the Southern Plains. Texas, no trade on Friday, 8,700 head for the week. Box beef cutout values were lower this past week, and we grew that choice select spread again after we had brought it down to around $20. Now it's back up there close to $28. But your weighted average on all of last week's box beef cutout values on the spot market, 253.53. That's 62 cents lower than your weighted average from the previous week. Your late sales on Friday were about $3.50 lower than that, at 249.93. Your selects weighted average on all of last week's sales, 225.78, down $8. Ouch. From your weighted average from the previous week. And late sales were just about $1, a little more lower than that on Friday late, with choice select spread at $27.78, and 695 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, which is pretty decent movement there. Talk about what else is going on. You guys can probably tell, and from my last visit, I told you I was going out to Las Vegas, Nevada for the National Finals Rodeo. Been out here all weekend. Going to be here another couple of days. Sure ready to go home, but got some things we're going to attend here in a couple of days. But I told you we were going to wish Steve Stratford's son good luck. Steve Stratford is a friend of the Feeder Flash. He's a friend of the Cattleman. He's out of Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas. He's a good guy, and he's done some social media videos and things like that. But really a nice guy. He sorts cattle all week. He's got a purebred herd of his own. He has bull sales. He sells bulls all the time. Active in that industry. Order buys, does a lot of buying of feeder cattle. Very, very active, and it's just good to see somebody that's that active in the cattle business having a son that's big in rodeo, and particularly in bull riding, because a lot of times we get these kids that just all they do is know how to hang on and dig in with their spurs, and don't have any kind of a Western grow up. But J.R. Stratford sure did, and he did hit luck on round 3. He split the winning on round 3 with a 90-point ride. He's a very, very talented young man, just turned 20 years old. And you look here at this, this is a picture that I took at the awards ceremony of the Buckle. There's a lot more people on stage because he split the bull riding with another guy that got 90, and his family was up there too. But if you know Steve, you can pick him out there in the crowd. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. ended the week at 176.75. That was up just 13 cents for the week. And like I said, yeah, we're seeing some wild prices, but they're mostly just reserved for the Midwest and the Northern Plains. You get down in the Southern Plains and lower Midwest, and they're good, but they're not continuing to gain all the time. But Fort Scott, Kansas had a really good sale on Saturday. You look at all these loads of 800 to 1,000 pound steers they had in there, including the stick out deal. You see 183 steers weighed 904 at 184 and a quarter in Fort Scott, Kansas. How about your Zoetta stick out sale of the day? It was Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. 7,600 head there. Very impressive sale. One of those I was talking about that's just eye-opening and unbelievable. Steers were kind of uneven, as mostly calves, but heifers sharply higher. And you look at this that I pulled, this is 100 head drafts or bigger. It come out to me mostly all 5-weight calves, both steers and heifers. You see in there 112 head of 525 pound steers bring 233.50. And then you see 109 head of 521 pound heifers at 216, and we're not considered to be going for replacement. Oh my goodness. How about Mankato Livestock, Mankato, Kansas, Neil Beret and friends. 85 steers weigh 646 at 214. Wow. Nevada Livestock Marketing, they had a special feeder cattle sale without me. I was in Nevada, but pretty good drive from them to the south, but had a really good special there on Friday in Nevada at Fallon, Nevada, at Nevada Livestock Marketing, including 60 head of little pee-wee steers weighed 400 pounds at $2.49 a pound. How about Crawford Livestock Market, Crawford, Nebraska? 74 steers weighed 706 at $206.60. My goodness. But the most impressive thing that I heard late last week or over the weekend, your Macrison No BS top quote for the day comes out of Fort Pierre Livestock Auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota. Had nearly 700 head of spayed heifers. They weighed between 750 and 835 pounds. They bring from 186 to $2.50, $200.50 a pound. And the weighted average on those spayed heifers was 683 head, weighed 805, with a weighted average price of $198.38. Spayed heifers, people, not for replacement. That's your feeder flash for Monday.